I'm Debbie Travis.
And I'm Tommy Smythe.
And this is Trust Me, I'm a Decorator.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to Tommy. Happy New Year to Jacky Brown. Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year, Debbie. I'm so excited, Jacky, that we have you back again to talk about what we're going to do in the new year to make ourselves more well and more healthy. Because I think it's just one of those endless classic annual discussions, but we're looking for what's new and what's next in terms of how do we make ourselves feel good.
Maybe what we should be doing is look at what we said we were going to do this time last year and see what we kept up, what we didn't bother with, and what was a complete disaster, or what we did well. You know, is there something that you really changed last year that you're really proud of? I don't have anything.
Well, if I did any of it well, I'd look like Arnold Schwarzenegger right now. Not.
Well, I just want to say we all need this because we spent Christmas together, didn't we, Tommy?
Yes, we did.
At Jacky.
Tommy came to my family Christmas, which was fantastic.
It was so lovely. It was really fun.
Yeah, so maybe we're not the right people to be giving that kind of advice because we ate everything.
I think it doesn't count. It doesn't count on Christmas Day. You know, you can do what, you know. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the enjoyable, fun day. You can have a little extra indulgence.
So, I mean, the papers are full. You know, I'm sure if I had a television, the television would be full of what's new. And so it's just a child. Hang on.
That's Debbie's local gym calling to find out if she'd like to renew her membership.
She went once last year. But let's just say that again. So at the beginning of the year, we are inundated with advice for getting back in the gym, diets, just about everything. The newspapers are full, the television segments are full of what we should be doing for, I guess, a better life, lose those pounds from over Christmas or the pounds from last year. Jacky Brown, my oldest friend, who is an amazing nutritional therapist, not just for her clients, but at our retreats. So, Jacky, tell us, help us.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Well, I know we talk about all these different diets, but it's still the number one diet is the Mediterranean diet because it's so inclusive of so many different types of food. And there are so many diets out there that exclude so many different types of food. And I think that's very hard to be sustainable. You want to be able to eat lots of different things. And I think for years and years, we've been told fat is the enemy. But fats are healthy. They're healthy fats are good for you. And our favorite fat is olive oil, which we have a plethora of in Italy. I use it all the time. I use not yours for cooking, Debbie, because it's treasure, but not being afraid of fats. Diet's the cornerstone of health. So if we can sort of tweak our diet and not follow our diets, like all the different paleo and, you know, obviously it's very popular to be vegan, Tommy. If you do it well, it's fantastic. But lots of people don't do those diets well, or they skip the bits they don't like. People do not eat enough plants on the whole. We want to try and have at least maybe 30 different plants, 30, 40, 50. I made a kind of fridge curry last night, which I counted maybe all the ends, you know, that needed eating. And I turned it into a curry with chickpeas and coconut milk and different things and garlic and herbs. And it's so easy if you know how to eat well, if you have an open mind. I think a lot of people go, oh, I don't like that. I don't like beans. But beans are so nutritious, full of protein. And if you're trying to reduce your meat intake, beans are a fantastic source of protein, as well as lots of minerals. So I eat a lot of beans and lentils. But, you know, getting some good flavor in them is vital.
I feel like a lot of people really sort of worry about like what's the right thing to do and what's not the right thing to do, because there's so much conflicting information out there on social media, on the internet. What's your advice to people in order to like get the right kind of advice? I mean, obviously come to someone like you, but what else?
Yeah, that's a great question because even the experts don't agree, you know, because I listen to research all the time and I'm still hearing there are lots of people that are very suspicious of eating beans because they can contain something called lectins, which are supposed to be not very good for your gut. However, if you prepare beans properly and you soak them and you pour the water away, or you get a good quality tinned bean, they're absolutely fine.
There are lots of really great tips with beans too. Like I was finding that chickpeas were making me feel really gassy. And then I read somewhere that if you actually remove the skins,
one by one.
yeah, you just pinch them and they come off. It doesn't take long. It takes under 5 minutes to do it.
I think you find the things that work for you, but it's including more food, but trying to eat less foods containing a lot of sugar. And sugar is kind of the enemy of the gut, but still sometimes it is fantastic to have, our sugary treats. I mean, I'm a real fan of chocolate because, 70% chocolate because it's fermented food, plus it's got some nutrients in. But once you have a piece of 70% chocolate, you kind of only want a little bit and it satiates you. It's finding little swaps. So instead of having a sugary treat at night, have a little bit of chocolate.
So I shouldn't be having an eclair.
No, I don't think that's a sort of on the list of. I mean, everybody knows that cakes have got empty calories, and trying to substitute the cake with no nutritious value to it with something that has a little nutrition in is what I think are aiming for. It's what I definitely aim for every day. When I want to grab the eclair, I'm thinking, no, I'll have the chocolate because I enjoy it just as much.
You'll have the wine. That's what you're trying to say, the wine.
Yeah, I kept stumbling over. I wanted to say wine, but...
The great thing today is everything is international. We can all have access to experts worldwide, which is amazing. But you're right, on the internet, then now, I notice on Instagram, there are people then now explaining on top of what the so-called experts who've got no medical degrees at all. Once again, it's just making us more and more confused. Who should we listen to? So who do you trust that we can all Google or find their podcasts or find their information? Thin it down a bit, the noise out there.
I do have one that I follow because it's written by medical doctors, scientists, and now they've discovered a much more healthy way of eating. And that's the Zoe podcast, which I believe is available everywhere. 3 times a week, they have really good podcasts of 10 minutes, 20 minutes on different subjects. And I find tapping into those helps remind me, I hate the word good and bad, or what is better for you than the alternative. So, of course, now coffee's seems to be there are many good sides of coffee, but probably the downside for some people is the caffeine. But coffee has fiber in it, and we're trying to increase our fiber. So for those that love coffee, it's fine as long as the caffeine doesn't interfere with you, keep you awake, because caffeine is a sleep blocker, as I'm sure lots of people know.
To me, what you've taught me over the years is always to see if these people are selling anything. And I think the kind of depressing thing is you find somebody you quite like and they're giving good information, and then suddenly the next minute they've got a product line out and it's like, no.
Yeah, it is true. Or they're trying to sell you a vitamin or a supplement to support you, because they think that's probably the best way to regain your health. Especially, it depends, everyone is different. So when people ask me advice about what they should eat, I don't know, because I don't know what they're already eating or what they need to change. But I think with what I found with Zoe, they do have a system that you can pay for, and you can they monitor your blood glucose and they test your gut bacteria. And I did it last year just to see if I thought it was worthwhile people doing it, that I could recommend to people, because of all the tests. And testing does have a place when people are unwell and they're trying to regain their optimum health. However, it can be expensive, but I did it for 4 months just to see whether I thought it'd be worth recommending. And I did think there was a lot of value against what it costs. They don't recommend vitamins. They recommend a really healthy way of eating, including more fermented foods. So having some live bacteria to feed your gut, which you should try and eat a little of every day to help your gut bacteria.
And what is that, Jacky? Is that like kombucha or?
It is, yeah.
It's like cabbage that's an Asian dish.
Oh, kimchi.
Kimchi.
So a lot of Ks: kombucha, kefir, kimchi, and then sauerkraut. That's obviously with an S. But a miso. But all these foods are really delicious, and you don't need that much. But what you do need to do is probably have a little every day, because there was a big fashion for people taking probiotics, and now, if you start taking all these supplements, it does end up being really costly. And also, if people don't go and see anybody professional to tell them what to take and what not to take, I've seen people with cupboards full of stuff, Debbie Travis. And, you think, oh, well, I remember reading that was a good thing to try, and then I've forgotten to take it. But you need, everything nowadays is personalized to you, your lifestyle, and how you need to keep your optimal health.
So one of my New Year's resolutions actually this year is to make kombucha. What's the other K? What's the drink, Jack?
Why?
Oh, why did I do that enough? No, what's the kombucha, the liquid you make?
So I make kombucha and I make kefir, and I make two types of kefir. I make a water kefir and a milk kefir. And, I vary. Sometimes I'm more in the mood for one than the other. But I think it's always, or this is what I feel, it's about the variety. Because it gets very boring that you say, oh, I've got to have that kefir every day, the same thing every day. And it's great to mix things up. And there are fermented cheeses, obviously not for those, with the completed immune systems or they're pregnant. As long as you're well, to have a good fermented cheese is fantastic. And in Italy, we have beautiful cheese in Italy, don't we? From the...
Yeah, we do a sheep cheese. But just going back to all these probiotics that you can make yourself, because also the kombucha and kefir are all available in the shops. And I looked at some of them, and they've got a lot of sugar. But there's a really good guy. Well, I like him, but I can't remember his name, of course. But he, I'll put it in the notes. But he was talking about kombucha today, about people who make it and drink it regularly, like himself, are very nervous about how much sugar is in it. But they've just done a study in Washington where they put all these people on different probiotics. And what came out about homemade kombucha is that the kombucha itself is eating the sugar. So you're not absorbing. Is that right?
Yeah, that's my understanding of it, because it's used in the fermentation process. So when you actually drink the kombucha, it does not taste sweet at all because the sugar is fermented. It might have turned to like 0.0, a tiny bit of alcohol because of the fermentation process. And when I make it, I put in the minimum amount of sugar that I know I'm going to get a good result from. And then I double ferment it. I put it in a bottle and wait for it to fizz up. So over the years, I've learned I don't need as much sugar as some of the recipes say, but it's the ones in the shop, sometimes because of the processing of it, because it's a processed food, it's been pasteurized and then the bacteria is put back in. So just because it says kombucha, pick it up, read the label. It may not be the product you think you're getting.
Is it easy to make?
So easy.
If you could send us a recipe, we'll post it, because I'm going to start that this week. But you've got to start somewhere. And I know you do it here and you've done lessons, and I wasn't listening. But I think it'd be really nice, because I can't buy it here anyway, because the Italians do their own form of, natural probiotics. So I really want to start taking kombucha every day. So if you can send me, and we'll put it up in the notes for everybody so we can all try it. Maybe we can all try it together. Would you do it, Tommy?
I got to tell you, I feel like if smelly feet were a drink, that's what kombucha would be.
That's right. It's a SCOBY.
It grosses me out so much because it has that thing in it that's called like the mother or something. It kind of looks like, when your stomach lining comes off and ends up in the toilet. Like there's something about it that I just can't get it past my lips. Like I'm just like, oh.
But it tastes quite nice. Kefir's quite, liquid, watery kefir is nice, isn't it?
I mean, I could try to get used to it.
I also make my kombucha with green tea and ginger. When I first used to make it years and years ago, I made it with black tea and sugar, and it tasted like Tommy was describing. But you do have to have a slightly strong stomach to possibly make it, because you do have to have it sitting on your countertop. And I do, I treat them like my little children when I come down in the morning. How are you? And how are you doing today? And, and then the SCOBY doubles. And then you have to, that's why it's called the mother, because then you have to give one away. And that's quite tough because it has a little baby. So you give it away.
It's like yeast, right? You share yeast to make bread with, and you split it up. And yeah.
Or you put it on your compost heap. So that's brutal, but that's what you have to do. But it's quite, in the fermenting communities, people often find somebody to gift it to.
I know, I get it. I'm scared of it.
It's a commitment because you can't leave it for that long. And if I go away, if I leave home, I have to trust somebody to feed it and look after it.
It's like a science experiment.
So Tommy, do you have a New Year's resolution this year? Either of you. Let's start with Tommy.
I don't do New Year's resolutions because I've just failed so miserably at doing them. But it is a time of year that I do a kind of re-examining of my regular practices. Jacky was talking about the importance of diet Everybody who knows me knows that I eat a vegan diet. It's not so much a diet. When you're vegan, it's an ethical choice more than it's a diet per se. But, as a vegan, I have a tendency to, I like junk food and I like the comfort foods that are vegan, mac and cheese that's vegan and burgers that are vegan. And so at this time of year, I usually re-examine how I'm eating and kind of take a look at the last few months of last year and make some, commitments to changing a little bit toward a healthier intake of food, more salad, a little bit more, just sort of natural whole foods. Because I do tend to really enjoy the like comfort food vegan stuff. So that's really my only thing is I kind of look at those things. I look at the amount of exercise that I've been doing. I don't make a commitment to go to the gym. I don't like say, oh, I'm going to gain a certain amount of muscle mass. I just say to myself, if I'm not moving enough, let's move a little more. If I'm not eating as well as I could be, let's eat a little bit better and try to make small changes as I go forward so that I'm not disappointing myself with these huge goals that I can't achieve.
Yeah, so that's a good point because you just beat yourself up sometimes.
We're just going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp.
It's that time of the year again when people make their big New Year's resolutions. It could be joining a gym, drinking more water, or finally organizing that mess of a closet.
You know what, Debbie? Some closets will just never be organized. How about we scrap the idea of making a big change and instead focus on the changes that will actually stick?
That may be the most insightful idea you've had in 2024 thus far.
See, it's the little things. I think therapy can help make those small changes by learning coping skills and setting healthy boundaries to become the best version of yourself.
If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and is designed to be convenient and flexible.
So, whether you're in Toronto
or Tuscany, BetterHelp will fit your schedule.
Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit betterhelp.com/decorator to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/decorator.
I'm Sarah Burke, and I host the Women in Media podcast, where I'm exploring the challenges women face in the media spotlight and celebrating our triumphs. My guests come from radio, TV, news, and sports, and we'll cover topics like leadership, diversity, stereotypes, and more. Most of all, I'm looking to build a community through a space where we can discuss anything. The Women in Media podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or at womeninmedia.ca.
One thing I think people, myself included, is you expect this to be, a couple of weeks, and then you don't see results and then you fall off. But I have another friend here in Italy who became very holistic about 18 months ago. And she was here at this party we had the other night. And she looks 10 years younger. She really looks good. But it took time. And I think that's something that we must kind of embrace.
It's a practice. It's definitely a practice. Last year, Debbie, you quit drinking for several months, which really backed me and Jackie.
I did. Well, I did dry January and I started yesterday. A bit late. So I've done day one. But I'm going to try and do it again. And I set myself a goal last year, which was Jackie's son's wedding, which was the first week of June. And I did it. And you know what? It was the pleasure. But I felt good. I really felt good. And now I'm really, really excited at the moment because it was a heavy, heavy month. Like every day and it just gets to the stage where, okay, there's one more party. And what I did last year, which really helped me do it, is on my mirror in the bathroom, I used an eyebrow pencil and I would put the days on. So I've got a 1 on there now. But, when I got to like 150 days, it looks, it's a great way. And also, in the evening when you have that week time for me anyway, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, where you think, oh God, I just need a glass of wine. I would go upstairs and I'd see my numbers and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have a ginger beer or something like that. And that really worked. I mean, maybe everybody's different, but that really worked for me because it was my own little kind of slap on the back.
You're in competition with yourself, and
Yeah.
Very healthy way to do it.
you had a goal.
Yeah, very healthy
Yeah.
way to do it because it's self-motivating and it's
Yeah.
also goal-oriented and it's small goals. I mean, those little ticks and then with the slash when you reach 5, that's what people do in prisons. You're like the Countess of Monte Cristo,
Yeah.
marking off the days until you can.
That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like, you know. And then somebody came in and cleaned it. I was like, what? After about a month, I really saw the difference. No aches and pains, more energy, all that, you know, slightly puffiness, which sometimes puffiness is good because you don't see the wrinkles as much. So you become a little bit more gaunt. But now I want to feel like I did, you know, last spring, you know. So that's my incentive this year. I do a lot of walking anyway because of the dog, but I want to do more weight training this year.
Yes.
You know,
I think, especially when you get older, you start to lose your muscle mass. But we don't have to go to the gym for an hour and a half. You know, you can do 10 minutes, you know, every other day or start off like that. I think a lot of people, you know, with the New Year's resolutions going, oh, we're going to join a gym. And then, you know, 6 months later, you never go again. So I think it's the small things you do every day. And it's not just the actual exercise, but it's also moving more, you know, gardening and walking more and not sitting down, doing, you know, your own housework, just more movement rather than just sitting down the whole time. And if we do have to sit at a desk all day, if you can get up every half an hour, every 20 minutes, walk around, sit down again. And as Tommy said, which I love, it's the small things, little things that are doable that you incorporate. So last year, and I did write a list of things I'm going to try and do more of, and that was one of them, just move more. And when you feel like sitting down in your chair with a box of chocolates or cake, it's go, no, I'm going to get up. I'll just go for a little walk outside in nature, weather permitting. Just breathe in the air. And I just love those kind of, it's meditative, which is something I'm still working on. I'm not a great meditator, but mindfulness. And it really does help, I think, to help you feel more balanced.
And these are things that don't cost money. I mean, it's not like you have to buy a gym membership to go for a walk.
No,
or
nothing.
to lie down in your quiet room and turn the lights down and meditate for an hour. You know, those are all things that everyone can practice free of charge.
And I think sometimes I say to people, well, why? And it sounds like, you know, it sounds a bit childish, but almost going back to school and writing out a little timetable. And until you've made it a daily practice, is schedule in when you're going to do your 10 minutes of exercise. Schedule in. And I'm a big fan of eating 3 meals a day, because I think if you start massively skipping, you know, if you skip lunch or you skip breakfast, you make up for it somewhere else in the day. You need to keep your blood sugar steady. It doesn't mean to say, and I'm very keen also to eat in a, you know, they call it time restricted eating. It's got many titles, but I probably will eat at 9 o'clock in the morning, 12 to 1:30, and I kind of like to have my last meal around about 6. Obviously, it doesn't always happen because of, you know, different, normally your social life or around work. People can't always do that because they're at work at those times, but trying not to eat really late at night is something that people could be more mindful of. Not eating, starting to cook at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and eating at 10 because you're going to bed on a full stomach. And then, you know, you get up and have breakfast again. But I think it's very good to let your gut have a little rest at night, and everything seems to be about the gut, healing your gut, improving your microbiome. And this gives you time to rest and digest at night. And I think you definitely sleep better. And maybe too much glucose, you know, your foods, your carbohydrates are turned to glucose, and your brain feeds on glucose. And at night, you know, sometimes people wake up at 3 a.m. and their brains are going crazy because, you know, they wake up and start thinking, and then the glucose, you know, feeds their brain, and they're, you know, up all night or having, you know, sleep problems. So improving your sleep, that's something I'm really keen on.
Yeah, this point you said about writing things down. At the retreats, as both Tommy and Jacky know, we give everybody a really beautiful diary. And there's a purpose for that. And it's because they're absorbing so much information, but also they're feeling day by day. I mean, it really does happen. And like you say, there's no quick fix. I mean, a week here, you know, in Tuscany, it's not a quick fix, but you do feel good at the end of the week. you've been extremely social, you've made new friends, you've been relaxed, you're not worrying about work or family. And so, but what everybody says is, how do I keep this up? How do I bottle it? How do I bring it home? How do I feel like this in a month or, next year? I got told off in the morning because I had already had 8 coffees by 9 o'clock. And not told off, but, maybe Jacky had said, maybe the reason you don't sleep is because all that coffee's building up in you because people think they need it because they didn't sleep. And so they write down those little facts all day long so that, and we say, take this diary home and keep jumping back into it. One woman just said that in her diary, she'd written best day ever. And then had written a list, I never forgot this, of why. What had happened, made a new friend, laughed till I nearly peed. It wasn't about, I didn't eat the potato or I didn't have a piece of bread. It was the feeling and the emotion that had made them feel so good about themselves. And that is the key. It doesn't matter what you do. If you don't feel good about yourself, you're on the wrong track. And she said, I've gone back to that year in, year out, just saying, those are my moments. Those are the keys that give me a more joyful life.
It is when we have people around our Tuscan table and people are making new friends and they're telling each other, swapping stories, and you hear the laughter and taking that home and reconnecting with your friends at home and inviting them round for a kitchen table supper and recreating, making the pasta together. They have such a wonderful time, our ladies, making pasta and, comparing notes. And not everyone's pasta is perfect. And it doesn't matter because it all kind of comes out the same once it's got the sauce. It's just delicious.
I mean, you can't roll pasta and cut it into shapes without screaming with laughter. I mean, it's just normal. And, most of these women have never met each other before. And within 24 hours, I mean, it does get rather dirty and rude at times, but after 24 hours, they are laughing like 14-year-olds. How do you get that feeling of pure joy? I mean, we actually see people skipping like little girls.
Yeah.
And like Jacky said, we can hear the laughter. It makes us feel good. But again, you can take that home, and that's, again, knocking on doors, creating we've talked about this so many times before, creating a community. Like Tommy just said, I posted something the other day because we did a party. Nobody wants to go to a party on the 6th of January, but we had 24 people and we just said, oh, come around. I did a Mexican night and I had to at 1 o'clock ask people to go home because the dog was tired. The dog was exhausted. And there was another puppy here. So, but the thing is, everybody had said, yeah, we'll come. And it made you feel so good. And these are people from all expats from around the world and some Italians. And it was, it's just great. And it's not about how much you drink or how much you eat and whether the food's good. It's putting people together. And I love doing that. I really love it because I think that's the biggest health benefit of all, isn't it?
I couldn't put it better myself. You're right. And we say you've got to be your own health warrior. And a lot of people say to me, oh, I can't do this because, so people put a blocker sometimes in the way of getting well. I can't eat more greens because I don't really like them. Well, you need to find a way that works for you to eat more plants and make them, as delicious. And they are delicious once you start learning to cook. A lot of people don't learn to cook, and they just rely on, convenience foods or takeout.
One thing that Patrick and I do, one thing that we do that forces us into learning new recipes and cooking new things is when we're actually in the supermarket, in the grocery store. Sometimes I'll see something and I'll say to myself, we never buy that. So it could be like leeks or a butternut squash. And I say, you know what? I'm going to buy this and then I'm going to put it in the fridge. And as it starts to get to the point where I need to use it, it will force me to go online and find a recipe. What's a great recipe? A vegan recipe for leeks. And then you look at everything that's there and then you learn how to cook something new. And sometimes we don't do it again, but sometimes we find something that becomes a part of our normal repertoire recipes because it kind of pushes you into a place like just buying ingredients that are unusual for your own pantry or your own fridge can actually force you into learning something new.
But it's a real gift, cooking. And if you go, I can't because it's so difficult. It's not difficult, and we have some ladies that come to us, some can cook and they're brilliant in the kitchen. Some ladies never boiled an egg. So, but by the end of it, they can all make pasta. So, because, we have wonderful chef Francesco that, teaches them, but you can put on a great YouTube video and learn to cook something. There are so many sources now that at our fingertips.
So to review, I feel like I want to say to you, Jacky, like what I've learned from my conversations with you, and this one included, is that there really isn't necessarily a quick fix, but in a short period of time, you can adjust your practices and make your practices feel as though there's something that is life-enhancing and wellness-inducing. And I think that health and wellness is like anything else. If you actually want to be good at it, and you should want to be good at your own health and wellness, you have to learn. You have to do your research. You have to find reliable sources. You have to question, authority. You have to find multiple, versions and decide for yourself, but you have to educate yourself. And education, knowledge is everything.
And excluding all the things that we know, and we know what puts on weight. We know it's, sugary carbs, donuts, pizza every day. But to having variety and eating a lot of plants, more plants than you probably normally eat, is a good start. And I think another thing that people find very hard is to find something suitable for breakfast. In Italy, the Italians don't have the healthiest breakfast. We do at the villa because we have a very varied breakfast, which I love. So we have avocado, we have mushrooms one day we have eggs. So it's a variety, something different every day. Don't get stuck eating the same thing for breakfast every day. Have variety.
And also, I love to go to, we all love it when we travel to go to, and I do, going to supermarkets in a different country, whether you go to the islands or Mexico or whatever. But you have those communities in all countries now. So you could go to the local, Jamaican grocery store. You could go to the local Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, and try different fruit. I was in Brixton, in London.
The market in Brixton is called Electric Avenue, and it's the one from the song. It's really like, we're going to rock down to Electric Avenue. That's it.
Tommy won't like this. I saw snails that were bigger than, they were outside in a barrel, bigger than a tennis ball. Snails. And I said to my son, what are those? And he said, I'll explain later. He forgot. But it's not about the snails. If you go inside and, they've usually got all the vegetables lined up, I wouldn't know how to cook a yam. Maybe we should, There's all these different type of produce that even if it's tinned, go and try it,
Obviously, read the label, make sure there's not too much salt. Nothing wrong with frozen vegetables because they're frozen at source. So always having a backup of vegetables in your freezer is a fantastic idea. And berries, they can be very expensive at certain times of the year. And they're just as good. So always have a good supply in your food.
And easy. They're there. You don't have to think about going to buy them or they've gone all moldy. Yeah. We have bags of berries here and they're called, I love it because they're called Fruta de Bosco, the fruit of the woods. And it's a beautiful word. And Fruta de Bosco. And we just take them out in the morning. And it's black currants, raspberries, blackberries. And there's no sugar in them at all.
Just frozen, yeah. And with yogurt and... Yeah, yogurt or on ricotta or something. They're really good. They're great. I use them all the time.
So, Jacky, have you got a New Year's resolution?
Like Tommy, I don't want to set myself up for a failure. I don't really make a definite one, but I think maybe just to be kinder, nicer. Just think those sort of things. Not really about my diets. I hate making that. Because I hate diets and I never ever want to go on a diet again. They just don't work. You just need to tweak what you're already eating and include more food. But to go on a diet you follow per se and count calories, I never want to do that again. You punish yourself and they just,
Reward and punishment. Yeah. And suffering in order to be healthy. And you don't have to suffer to be healthy. You just have to be patient and you have to do the work.
Because when you were at university, there was a really interesting experiment that you did. I remember years and years and years ago, where everybody in the class was put onto different famous diets. Somebody was on the paleo, somebody was on the zone diet, and you said it was like crazy,
Well, the minute you're not doing it for a reason. You're off it. And they're hard to stick to. When people go out for dinner, like, oh, there's nothing on the menu I can eat. There's always something on the menu you can eat. You can have a piece of grilled fish, or, you can ask for the sauce to be withheld if you're on a really strict diet. But the pleasure of going out to eat is, treating yourself. So I think when I go out for a meal, I was just eat whatever. And you don't want to hold back on things like that. But the rest of the time, you can be more mindful about what you're eating and resist the things we know are calorie laden, and include more of the healthy foods, and then have those, once a month, or, as a treat food. I don't want to say as a treat food, because you don't want to reward yourself with, food particularly, but really enjoy it when you have it.
We have to push that out of our sight, because that's how we were all brought up, wasn't it? Rewarding yourself with food.
No more suffering. Yeah. Enjoy your food.
Okay, so that's the New Year's resolution. Yeah. Nobody's going to suffer.
No more suffering. Yeah.
On our own account. Well, Jacky, thank you. We'll put some of that information up in the notes, and everybody have a healthy, happy, and safe New Year.
Yes, please. And thank you, Jacky. Well, we hope to have you back really soon.
Oh, it was great to catch up with you.
Find the Trust Me podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, review, leave us a voice note at thetrustmepod.com or at thetrustmepod on Instagram.
This podcast is distributed by the Women in Media Podcast Network. Find out more at womeninmedia.network.